Hi, my name is Erin Quill. Welcome today to what I like to refer to casually as the AAPI Writers Panel, but which this year I took a little hint from Hamilton and I called it Writing Our Way Out. We are writing, these people, all three of them, have taken it upon themselves to incorporate into their work not only social justice, but stories for people to tell that are not, white America, which I think is like a really important part, because it's great for actors to be like, well, there are not enough roles, but like, who's gonna write them if you all don't write them? Like, it's such a pleasure to see that there are people actively trying to tell these stories, and that we also have actors to fill them. So it's not just, like I said yesterday about the actors panel, it's not about always being in front. It's about having projects and the people behind the table that make those projects. Elliot being one of them, actually. Yes, I know, he's very fancy. Didn't you have produced Allegiance, right?
Yeah, going to another country.
Oh, fancy. You should talk. All right, so here we go. Before I am going to introduce my panelists, and then I'm going to read a couple of statistics, okay? So Helen Park is a 3-time Drama Desk nominee and the winner of the Lucille Lortel Award for Best Musical. She is also a winner of the Richard Rogers Award. Her show Kpop had a sold-out run at Ars Nova and was the most nominated show of the 2017-2018 season. She wrote the you should clap. She wrote the music and lyrics for the Netflix film Over the Moon, which had a diaspora cast of Asian Americans. And also managed to get itself an Oscar nomination for Original Animated Feature. That's pretty fancy. She is a graduate of NYU's Graduate Musical Theater Writers Program and a member of the BMI Lehman Engel Advanced Musical Theater Workshop. Kpop, which is her show, is scheduled to open on Broadway in October of this year. That's like super fancy. And may I just say that the last time I was able to have an AAPI Writers panel in person, and it was also the first one, Helen managed to join us, and that's where she dropped the news that Kpop was going to Germany. So I'm hoping she can, I have a secret, I'm not allowed to tell it, but if you dropped it, it would be okay. About another really fascinating project that's coming up, but I don't know that I'm allowed to say anything, so I'm just gonna keep talking. Daniel K. Isaacs is a graduate of US San Diego's theater department. He began writing several years ago, and some of the programs he's been involved with are Space on Ryder Farm, Page 73's Interstate 73, EST's Youngblood, and he is also a Lambda Literary Playwriting Fellow. As an actor, he was most recently nominated for a Drama Desk Award. What? Fancy. He's a nominated Asian. They're nominated. People on this is a nominated and winning award panel, panel, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter, I'm very excited, as you can tell. I also missed my train, so I'm a little agitated. I'm telling you, try sweat it out, and I'm like, what do you mean no trains today? Like what? Oh, okay, I have an hour and a half. It's fine, it's all good, I'm here. As an actor, Daniel was most recently, oh, I read that part. Okay. Drama Desk Award, blah, blah, blah. Performance in The Chinese Lady, directed by Ralph B. Peña at the Public Theater. He's been seen on Billions for Showtime and HBO's The Other Two, which I was so happy to see you on that.
Oh, thanks.
I was on that too, just the end episode though. But that's why I had to watch the whole series though. And his new play, Once Upon a Korean Time, with the Ma Yi Theater Company, is going up in August. And you can go to Ma Yi's website and buy tickets, and I suggest you all do that, like immediately. Even while you're here, you could do it on your phone. And finally, our end panels. Honestly, I'm so thrilled, Ralph, to have you here. And I'm gonna tell you all why, but anyway. Ralph B. Peña is a oh God, why am I so? He's a founding and current artistic director of Mayi Theater Company, which is an Obie and Drama Desk award-winning AAPI theater company based in New York City. As a playwright, his writing includes Flipzoids, Project Balangiga. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Talaga. Bucket the what? This End Up and Loose Leaf Bindings. As a director, he most recently was repped at the Public Theater with Lloyd Suh's The Chinese Lady. And he is an Obie Award winner for his work on The Romance of Magno Rubio, which the production was so legendary that you could talk to actors who were in that and they can recall it like it was yesterday. Because I've worked with several of them and all you have to say is Magno Rubio and their face lights up and they get super excited and then it's he also directed the world premiere of Hansol Jung's Among the Dead. And he is directing Daniel's Once Upon a Korean Time for Mayi. Born in Manila, he helped found Mayi in 1989 and became the artistic director in 1996. Ralph has been one of the leading voices in Asian American Pacific Islander theater and the rise of activism through theater, both in his writings, the subjects he chooses to develop through Mayi, and also the things he chooses to direct himself. Without Ralph B. Peña, as well as his fellow artistic directors who are also Asian American, Tisa Chang, Bayard Lee, Mia Katigbak, theater in New York would be white. It would be white. It would be really, really white.
Oh, thank you.
So we thank him for being on this panel and we are very grateful.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, and the reason, like, you know, Ralph does a lot of work off Broadway, and as you know, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of representation or work written by Asian Americans on Broadway. So, though this is the Broadway panel, and Helen is the first woman to write a musical that is going to be done on Broadway. First Korean American woman, I want to, like, Allegiance is right there, so I, you know. That was a Japanese American story. There's so many stories. Here Lies Love was at the Public. So, though this panel is technically BroadwayCon and we are supposed to embrace all things Broadway, which we do, we also have to make sure that we allow space for new voices, interesting voices, voices that have been here, that have been doing the work to allow progress on a larger scale. So without Ralph, there might not be a Helen. I mean, she would still be here. Shit, like, but it takes a village. It takes a village. And like steps laid long ago have led to Broadway. And I think that's a really important point. And I think that in Asian cultures, and Pacific Islander cultures, where we acknowledge ancestors and family, it is of particular note to have Ralph here and to have Helen here and to have Daniel here, because they're all at different stages, but they're also vitally important for the continuance of Asian American Pacific Islander representation across the board. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's, because it's a patriarchal society, we're gonna start with Helen. Yay for the what? How dare you? Okay. Helen, how does it feel being the first Asian American female to be fronting a musical on Broadway?
Yeah, it's just kind of hard to believe when you like that kind of address me like that, because you know I just feel like I've been very fortunate, but I think you know I just want to say something about how I wouldn't be here without Ralph. Like Ralph was sort of he was one of the producers for off-Broadway version of our show Kpop, and you know, I think when I brought Kpop to the world, like when I was like writing for the off-Broadway production, I was very kind of skeptical, even though I was like very passionate about Kpop. I was like, you know, I was studying musical theater writing at NYU, and I was like, but this is pop, and also half of the lyrics are Korean, you know, which I understand and probably Daniel understands, but like, you know, the average like New York theater audience would not understand. They might just like make fun of me. I had trouble believing in my, you know, my own my own self
Voice,
and like my
yeah.
own voice, and just like trying something new in this like, you know, big theater scene of New York. And I'm so grateful that Ralph believed that it could work. It could speak to audiences that are very white, and you know, have preconceived notions about, you know, Asian culture. And you know, K-pop was also very like, it's way more, you know, it's become way more successful now. And in 2017, when we had that off-Broadway production, it was something still very foreign and something exotic for people. And yeah, I was very nervous back then to put it out to the world. And you know, if it weren't for someone like Ralph to really believe in it and really give us, you know, the encouragement and the stage to really, you know, sort of shout our voices on and off stage, it wouldn't have become, you know, the thing that that is now. So yeah, I'm just very grateful to Ralph, and it also just kind of, you know, reminds me that I should be someone else's Ralph. You know, like I wanna, I know that I don't know, I somehow am like the first female composer on Broadway, but like, yeah, I really want to make sure to, you know, hold the door for someone else as opposed to being like, oh, okay, you know. And so yeah,
I think that's a great concept, and I also think that, you know, there are programs out there like Maestro, which was started by Georgia Stitt, which is supposed to highlight and encourage women composers and female, you know, but it is, if you're not in that world, you might not know. So for any young female composers or female identifying composers that are out in the audience, there are programs like Maestro where you can go and you can probably, I think they do have mentorship.
They do.
And all sorts of different things. It's very exciting, but it was started by Georgia because she looked out at the Broadway scene and she was like, there is a dearth of female talent, not only just composing, but conducting, music directing, being the music supervisor. Broadway has been a very male-dominated profession, and it's not about talent. It really isn't about talent. It's always been about access and who has access and who allows there to be more access, right? And so that's great because Ralph, Ma Yi allowed access for K-pop to develop.
Well, we're one. There were three producers: Ars Nova, Mai, and Woodshed Collective.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Bergman of Woodshed Collective approached me very early on and said, "Are you interested?" Even before Ars Nova got involved. And sadly, my partner died immediately after that thing, and I couldn't focus on K-pop. So it took us 5 years from the time Teddy approached me to the time it went up. It took 5 years to put everything together, to get the casting took a year or whatever, and then the financing. But I was always interested in it for the Asian American AAPI talents. That was always the goal. So I myself did not make K-pop happen. It was a bunch of people, but
Well, it's always a bunch of people.
It's a bunch of
No
people.
project happens with one person.
right.
You know.
But I was happy. I supported that project because of the AAPI artists involved.
Yeah. It's really important to understand that, like, people such as Ralph and such as me, who are probably a little bit more advanced in where we I am like honoring my auntiness. I am honoring that I am legitimately only gonna play people who play Mahjong now, so I better learn it. Because I don't like card games, I don't like any of that stuff, and my grandma was like, and I was like, I don't like it, I like show tunes. But it is important, and that's kind of why I do the blog and everything, is because when my son was born, which is a story I tell a lot, when my son was born, I looked at him and I said, is he only gonna have those 3 roles in The King and I? And I was like, no, that can't happen, because though my family is Chinese, we're from Australia, and my grandmother was a concert pianist, and she was only allowed to play so much,
Mhm.
right? Because Australia's Australia. And then my mother was the youngest advanced certification teacher in the Royal Ballet System, but she was not allowed to dance because her features didn't match the concept of what the English ballet system was, the Royal Ballet System. So she was fine to be a teacher, but she was not fine to be a soloist. Well, she was a soloist, but you know, there was not a lot of opportunity there for her to fit in to what the dynamic was at the time. And so I looked at him and I was like, we've given 3 generations, that's enough, you know? And so that's why it's important. It's important that Ralph saw that there was a project out there and he saw what it could do. And I think that's a really important conversation to continue to keep happening, you know? So when are you, everything, casting is done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She's like, what is it?
Yeah, I don't remember.
All the actors
Yes,
and it
yes.
just plots.
Casting is done.
Casting is done. And have you moved into rehearsal yet?
No, we're going to rehearsals in August. Yeah, mid-August.
And that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, that's like my favorite part, you know,
Right.
rehearsals, when we're all coming together and really collaborating and making something, you know, even more magical than, you know, what I imagined while, you know, doing the writing. So yeah, can't wait for that.
And do you read the script and figure out the characters before, or are you constantly thinking about it and writing a song and saying, okay, I'm going to figure out a character to give this to?
No, I think we start with the character, the story, and I am also like very much involved in like figuring out, you know, what story to tell and what song we should, you know, have a character sing. So yeah, I think that's a really important, important part before writing the song. But I mean, there has, because of the type of songs, it's very like structurally very pop. Like there's been instances where I write for one moment, but then find out that I could actually use that music and, you know, just give it another costume, like with different lyrics, different production elements to make it fit for another moment instead.
Right.
There's been some instances
For
like that.
continuity and for, you know, through line.
Yeah. Sometimes just like, you know, yeah. I mean, so because it's like, because it's already like a pop structure. Like I don't find that if I write something, like it just has to be like that character in that moment. Like it there's some versatility to the songs compared to like other musicals where, you know, you write for this one character in like that moment, and you really can't use it for anything else.
Yeah, it's an 11 o'clock number or it's not in the show.
Yeah. It's like it'd be a unique kind of show where it feels like maybe it could be a jukebox musical, but it's not. They're all original songs.
Right. And there's been that type of show, not like K-pop, but like Memphis was a show that was similar to that, which is like, it was all original music, but it sounded like music of the era.
Mhm.
So it was, you know, and it was very successful, by the way. So throughout when you announced, now the last time we did a panel, you announced that the show was moving to Broadway, which was very exciting for me. And then COVID hit. So how, did you freak out? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all of like 2019 was like, okay, when are we gonna get dates? Like, are we really going to Broadway? Like, and we had like workshops, and I was like, okay, this has to be it. Like, and then we're gonna move on to Broadway. And you know, finally we got potential dates. Like we got like confirmation that we were gonna put it on Broadway in 2020.
Right.
And then that's when COVID hit. And yeah, I mean, there was a phase during the pandemic where I thought, I mean, not only is K-pop not gonna go on Broadway, like I thought the world is just gonna end. Like there was a phase where I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
we're doomed.
Yeah.
But
We
so
were
it's-
doomed. We're still kind of doomed, yeah.
But a lot has happened during that pandemic, you know, especially to Asian American communities. And I think it just gave us more space and opportunity to really think about what our art means as, you know, a story of Asians. And yeah, I think in the end, the time that the pandemic gave us, I think we were able to use some of it, you know, to good use.
Some of it was useful.
Yeah.
Some of it not so useful. Yeah. But, and you have some people coming over who've never been on Broadway before, right? Who are coming from Korea.
Yeah.
Do you want to just remind people who that is?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of actual K-pop stars that I was a fan of, like, growing, I mean, I still am, but like, Luna, our main character, Mui, the actress who plays Mui, she's a member of, or she was a member of a very famous girl group, K-pop girl group called FX. Yeah, her name is Luna. I think I said that. Yeah, and we also have Min, who was a member of Miss A, who is who was also a very prominent girl group at JYP, the label. And Kevin Woo is like also a very well-loved K-pop idol. And so yeah, I think, you know, I think part of the things that I learned during the pandemic was that it was important that we really try and tell the story of K-pop, you know, unapologetically from like our cultural perspective. And you know, there are a lot of great Asian American actors, but we also thought it would be so great to like hear from and like to sort of like learn from and to collaborate with people from that actual genre and the culture, you know, who've trained since they're like 10. Luna literally like got cast to that label SM Entertainment at age 11, I think. And so yeah.
That sounds so Asian. Oh my God.
Yeah, so like
Wasn't 6? Playing the piano.
11 sounds late.
11 sounds late. Yeah. I mean,
true.
but she had to have done work before, Ralph. You know, she's like, she was working on it. She just got accepted when she was 11. So we're gonna let it slide.
Yeah. So yeah, I think in terms of casting too, like, you know, we scoured in like Instagram, like slid into like these K-pop stars DMs and
Yeah, like BTS.
Yeah, so.
Did you ask Psy?
No. I'm going to slide into his DM one day and I'll be like, can you come see our show?
I saw Psy at the Hollywood Bowl. So like, my husband is Korean American and a lot of his friends are very Korean, from Korea. And so we went, which is a different thing. It's a different thing. So I only know the bad words because that's what they teach me because they think it's hilarious. But I saw Psy probably like 10 years ago, 15 years ago in concert. And I remember saying, that's the guy. And everybody around me was like, are you kidding? He's this, he's that. I'm like, no, dudes, that is the guy. And it gave me great pleasure to see his domination for a while in the United States. So
I mean, I actually think I should DM him because we're actually really
I
thankful.
I seriously know his
to
manager.
No, I think come to think of it, like, you know, K-pop sort of started because Gangnam Style sort of, you know, was a sensation, and Teddy Bergman, our director, and also like folks at Ars Nova, were just like so intrigued by the phenomenon, and I mean, or by Psy, and then from then on, like, you know, they found out more about K-pop and were, you know,
I have an email to give you.
into it.
Yeah. All right.
So,
So
we're able to thank.
this is really exciting, and it's happening in October, and I think everybody should pre-order tickets and make sure that there's like a wave, because sometimes what happens is the publicity budget is not what you would like, or they don't target the people whose interests are of that genre, right? and the show can seemingly not do as well when all they had to do was invite particular groups in. And we have to remember that Broadway, as I always say, is a PWI, which means a primarily white institution. So their marketing teams, I'm not throwing them under the bus, I'm just saying they're not familiar. So if you have a church group, if you have a study group or whatever, if you have a K-pop group, definitely make sure that they know about it and that they pre-buy their tickets, because that has a huge thing to do with the show making its nut and making sure it runs. We talked yesterday about people being able to go to see a show and see people that look like them, and all that is based on ticket sales. Ticket sales. So please go and buy. Right, what's the website?
Kpopbroadway.com, I think.
We're gonna check on it, but anyway, it'll be fine. So, and now Daniel, you are primarily known as he's texting.
Kpopbroadway.com.
Oh, okay, he was Kpopbroadway.com. So now, Daniel, you started as an actor?
Yes.
Yes, and we have seen him do brilliantly on small screens and large screens. And when did you start writing?
I started writing snippets of conversations I had with my mother on Facebook. So that was my entry point into writing dialogue, was transcribing embarrassing or racist or sexist or homophobic or absurd snippets of dialogue that then a friend of mine, Kathy Yan, who directed the Birds of Prey movie and has a wonderful indie film called Dead Pigs that you should all watch, approached me to assemble these snippets of dialogue into a short film that is now a TV show in development since 2015. So if musicals take a long time, TV shows can also take a long time.
Absolutely.
And in that journey, I knew that playwriting and theater, that theater was my first love, and I wanted to write for that because the TV engine was and is still taking such a long time, at least for me personally. So.
And that was conversations with my mother?
According to my mother.
Oh,
yeah.
according to my mother. According to my according to my mother.
Exactly.
Sorry, according to my mother. So, how did according to my mother get you interested in looking at the theater world and seeing? Was your first foray into it like a monologue piece, or was it a short play?
This is funny to think about. I wrote a full-length play, never thinking that it would be produced, but because my theater company had a writer's group at the time that you had to apply with a play, and all I had was a screenplay or a pilot or a short film. So I wrote a play just to apply to your writer's group. And then they said, oh, it's a really busy cycle this year, and we had to let other folks in who were sort of next in line or have grown in their careers, and they entered the group. So please keep writing, but apply next time. And so then I looked at Ensemble Studio Theater has a writer's group for 30 and under playwrights, and for them you have to have 2 plays. So I wrote a second play just to apply to this writer's group, and I was fortunate enough to get in there. And by developing that second play, I was fortunate enough to get into Page 73's writer's group. The artistic director, Michael Walkup, is here. And that is also where I developed this, what is, I believe, my 3rd full-length play, Once Upon a Korean Time, that then Mai and Page 73 and Ensemble Studio all helped develop, and Mai is now producing, and that will be my playwriting debut in the city.
New York.
But I wrote plays to apply to writers groups. That's what I did.
No, that makes complete sense, because they always tell you don't write for free, but then like how, if you don't have samples, how are you going to apply to these things that can help your journey?
Right.
Right?
And I didn't go to grad school for it. I didn't have formal training in it, and I thought I would rather learn from a peer group, and I couldn't take time from my acting career to go into an educational environment. So these writers groups are where I've learned and grown and built community. So
yeah, it's a lot. When I started doing this playwriting panel, and I've met a lot of playwrights since I started doing this, and what amazed me is like, if somebody couldn't make an appointment or whatever, they'd be like, oh, call this person, call that. Everybody knows everybody in the playwriting world, which I think is so much nicer sometimes than the acting world, where everybody's like, no, I don't know anybody, sorry. Why are you asking? Why are you asking? Right? So I feel like the playwrights have a lot more camaraderie,
Oh, yeah,
you know?
they do.
They do, right, Ralph? And Ralph, he knows. I mean, he knows. So, Ralph, did you start writing first, or did you start directing first?
I started acting first.
Acting first. Okay.
But I'm really old. So that was eons ago. Yeah, and then I just decided I didn't want to be an actor anymore because actors have no agency whatsoever.
That is completely true.
Yeah, and
That's where
I
I'm
was
at
tired
now.
of waiting for other people to solve my problems.
Right.
So the next step was I wanted to write because I wanted to act. I didn't have anything to perform, so I had to create what I had to perform. And then that went along, and I said I can't be the only writer, and we started the Writers Lab. And then and all that time I was working on at Wall Street, and my partner died, and then I said, why am I working in Wall Street? I was doing Wall Street during the day and MIE during the night. I did it for 22 years. And then my partner died, and then I said, what the hell am I doing Wall Street for? And I quit Wall Street, and I became a full-time theater person in 2015.
Wow.
So I've only been full-time for 7 years.
But you've been having an impact for like
Decades.
30 years, 40
Right,
years.
but at the same time, I didn't really, I've always wanted to direct,
Right.
and I did it on and off, but now I'm doing it full-time. So I've done these 3 transitions of acting, playwriting, and directing. And directing, I think, is sort of more a personal thing for me, because I'm still focusing on my job, which is this bit of history to usher people into the next person that's going to take it forward. Long ago I said I'm never gonna see the finish line, but I need to focus on this much of this AAPI history and do as much in this little thing so that it can move forward. But the finish line is not for me, it's for other people. So hopefully these guys that are coming up are more empowered and have agency to say this is what we want to do, and can do that and not wait for other people to sort of make it happen for them.
Yeah, it's,
So that's the idea.
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not gonna see the finish line,
Yeah,
ever. You know, just like my grandmother didn't see it, just like my mother didn't
Yeah.
see it. I don't even think my son will see the finish line.
yeah. But the thing is,
But he'll have more opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's the, and
Right,
I don't
more
even
and
know if he
more and
wants to
more.
go into this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, can I just say, he's going to theater camp. And
Oh,
he's
yes.
10, he's 10. And they put him in the Sondheim review. He's doing Putting It Together at 10.
Yes. Yes, bit by bit.
I was like, it's that deep, kid? I'm like, is this appropriate for 10-year-olds? I don't know, but okay,
I
fine.
would buy him a cow puppet and start him on Milky White.
Right, I know. We'll be taking him into the woods tonight. So, you know, gonna see. Albert is he was one of my dancers in Flower Drum Song.
It's amazing.
So, you know, he's gotten, like, yesterday was Kelvin, and he went backstage at SpongeBob. Like, so what I try to do with my kids, and I'm sure you do as well, is like show them examples of Asians on stage. So to him, it's not a foreign concept,
No, that's right.
right? And I often wonder, what is the world like for him? Because he sees possibility where I would have been like, yeah, I don't know, I can't do
Yeah,
that.
but for most of my life, I experienced the world of theater through the bodies of white people.
Right.
And I had to substitute and pretend that that's also my experience and build empathy that way. But that's sort of, I'm over that. They should build empathy using our bodies and bodies of peoples of color, so that, you know, that white people are not the surrogates for our lives. They're just not. And I'm tired of it. And so my rule now is I will not watch or pay for a ticket to an all-white cast.
I have that same rule.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have that same rule. There are shows I absolutely will not go
Yeah.
see.
If they can't be bothered
Yeah, I'm
to
like,
represent me, then why would I give you my
I'm like,
money?
no. No, I won't do it. And it's really, and even though, you know, at certain points, like I have friends in it and stuff, I won't go.
I won't go.
And I'll tell them why. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have like no people, how could,
Yeah,
that's not a realistic world.
it is.
It's not a realistic world in today's day and age. Like when they first did Company, I think there were no people of color, maybe just one person of color in it. And I wrote about it and I listed, I was like, here are the demographics of New York. Here is the demographics of unmarried people in their 30s. Show me where this person is living in like an all white, you know, village in the
Yeah.
middle of Manhattan. That doesn't exist. And like, you know, and then when they came back, oh, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe that's my purpose, right? That's my
Yeah, but
purpose.
your blog's really great. I've been reading your blog for years, and then
Thank you.
you know, it's like it reminds me that activism is as important as creativity. It's equal. You can't have one or without the other, because otherwise you're not pushing everyone forward.
Right, I think that's the thing, like, not with Allegiance, with K-pop, with Once Upon a Time in Korea, like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would not have been able to go see a play that had Asian faces in it. I just wouldn't. You know, and I accepted it because that's all there was. You know, and like on occasion we'd get like a King and I, or we,
Saigon.
yeah, a Saigon, yeah, which always I was like, you know, it's a weird story for me, but you know, my mother said, like when she first came to this country in the late 60s, she said soldiers would come up and say, please may I date you, because she reminded them of the families they left behind. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I had that, you know, concept that those were, you know, that happened to real people, and it's not everybody's story, but it's one person's story or one person's version of a story. And I love Les Mis, so I, you know, went along with it. But it, you know, it really is Les Mis set with a helicopter. I mean, you know, it's like, let's do the same show. Let's do the same show, but let's pick a different war. Because the war in Les Mis wasn't really the French Revolution. It was just like a little street fight with students. You know, I'm just saying, if we're going from actual history, like that wasn't the revolution. Like there, you know, so, you know, then they picked a war that actually happened on a bigger scale, and they used Asian faces because, you know, they were moved by a photograph, and like all that is valid, but then they made a lot of mistakes that we don't honestly tolerate today. And, you know, and that's okay that we don't tolerate them anymore. It's okay to have problems with it. I have problems with it. I don't like to see it anymore. Even when I have friends in it, I've seen it so many times because I was supporting people. And each time I had to go and say, great job. And then I had to, you know, write out. So if it weren't for companies like Mayi, if it wasn't for East West Players, if it wasn't for Pan Asian, I don't think I would have seen I would not have seen any Asians on the stage. I wouldn't have seen them. And I think kids today don't understand that. They don't understand the scarcity issue.
Yeah. And for most of America, you know, they know Asian Americans through King and I,
Right,
South Pacific, Saigon,
right.
which are
Flower Drum Song
Flower Drum Song,
sometimes.
which are
And none
all-
of those are written by
and
Asian Americans?
None, but they're all trade in racist tropes. They're all highly racialized. Gorgeous music.
Yeah, beautiful music.
Beautiful music.
Like, we're
But
very
it's problematic.
thankful-
There were always the pimp, the mother pimping her own daughter in South Pacific.
Yeah,
And in King and I, it is the white woman who educates the Asian and has the epiphany.
right.
It is the white man, the king who adapts to her thinking about what the world should be.
And the crazy thing is, Anna Leon Owens was mixed race.
That's right. And Flower Drum Song, which is all about being cute and sexy, or I enjoy being a girl kind of thing. It's
Right.
like, what on earth are they? That's what most Americans, especially in Middle America, know and appreciate about Asian American culture.
You know, Flower Drum Song was actually a collection of stories written by C.Y. Lee, and who I met in LA tried to stick his tongue down my throat. I'm sorry if you're related, anyone here, I apologize. But I'm old, what am I gonna say? I mean, I'm a belter too, so there's only a certain amount of music I could sing. Anyway, the stories that were told in the musical were cherry picked. They weren't the whole book. And even he had like some issues with the show, which he mentioned. So it's not, every show is, I think, somebody's interpretation of a story. And the point being that we need more interpreters of stories that have compassion for the characters and don't view the characters as some sort of trope, some sort of stereotype, some sort of set thing that they can move around and puppeteer without giving them actual backstory, actual agency within that story, I think.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that as an actor, especially, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, okay, just do the thing that they want you to do. But, I think we're past that now.
I do, but I'm still torn with like, do I protest against this play because I have 50 friends who are employed?
Right.
And I go, you know what? They need to be employed. And I will go on my soapbox after you close. But
Right.
I can't. I'm always torn because these are the only opportunities that are given these folks. And Broadway matters because it is the highest paying theater job.
Right.
Off-Broadway is just not enough to live on. Not even Broadway really, but if you get there at least, you might have a chance. And so I can't be too down on Broadway because it employs people. And if we advocate for ourselves, then more Asian American actors will be on Broadway. And that matters. The economics of theater matters.
People come down on Miss Saigon a lot, and the part I wrote in the book Rise, which is out now in bookstores, is about the careers that came from the original company of Saigon. And let me tell you, honestly, there are hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Jeff gave me 2 pages, okay? So not everybody's in there. And I was like, how many, do I get 20 pages? Like, am I writing a whole section? He was like, you get 2 pages and we're gonna do these cartoon things. And I was like, all right. And I know some feelings were hurt because some people were not included and some people were, the point being, and what I hope it demonstrates is, without Saigon, we would not have Asian performers, because prior to that, there really wasn't this engine that ran and ran and ran and ran and paid people's mortgages and gave them health insurance and made them, if somebody's in a play on Broadway, a play or a musical, it gives leave for their agent to approach the television market, to approach the film market. Stephanie Sue was in SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
And now she's in all things right, and be more chill, and be more chill.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's so much opportunity that happens on Broadway. Broadway is a launching ground.
But it tells you, right?
But it tells you.
The success of Saigon created opportunities for a ton of Asian Americans, and actually inspired many, many, many Asian Americans to pursue theater because there was that opportunity. That's why we need more of these things.
That's why we need more of these things. So Helen, what are you writing next? Now that Kpop is done, I can't be in Kpop.
Many to do the
I could be an auntie, but not in Kpop. So what else is coming down the pipe?
Well, I think just to speak to how I view it as a writer, I think I agree that on stage, it's great to have representation. It's great to have Asian actors on stage, even if it's written by white people, if it gives them jobs. I think that's great, and I think that is a certain part of the Asian experience, right? Actually, there's the most populated people are Asians in this world, and so there's a variety of stories. But I think the problem is in Broadway history, the only times Asians are represented are in those really depressing war stories where the white savior is necessary. That I think that's a problem when there's like literally millions of other stories, you know, that we can tell. And I think like my dream is for there to be more diverse stories. You know, it's not just about like, you know, depressing or like, you know, pain that we think of. Like, you know, we don't even think about that. You know, we have, you know, just like such a, you know, such a variety of stories that are just, you know, waiting to be told on stage. And so, I think, you know, with the recent like a lot of like violence towards Asians, like what I really learned as a creator is that, you know, stories, especially, maybe I'm biased because I'm a musical theater writer, but like I think musical theater shows, you know, it has a very like humanizing effect, you know, like I remember like so vividly when my mom first saw Rent, and before then that show she like had no experience with queer people like at all. And so, but you know, her experiencing that show really opened her heart, and I witnessed it right next to her. And I think that's because like, you know, it gives the opportunity for the audience to not just to have good intentions for a certain group of people, but like it kind of forces people to go in another person's shoes and feel their emotions.
Right.
And you know, the more specific the story is, actually the effect is like, you know, so much stronger. Like Fiddler on the Roof, for example, it's very, very Jewish, very, very specific culturally, but then like it becomes the audience, and like the story becomes the audience story, and like it becomes like your own story, even though like you're an Asian, like Korean, you know,
right,
like
I know.
someone like me, I you know, relate to the character. And I think like more of that is needed in the for like Asian stories. And like what I want to combat from like other shows that I'm, you know, doing in the future is the you know, the notion that like Asians are just something from another planet, like something different, something like just like weird, like no, I really want to get to the point where people are thinking, oh, that's my story, like your story is my story. Like there are definitely different, you know, details, like cultural details, but actually in the end that's my story. And like that's my goal with you know, Asian centered pieces that I'm wanting to write in the future. And I
didn't say a thing. I didn't say
I have a couple shows that I'm working on, and weirdly a lot of it is I'm working on 3 stage shows that are all adaptations of of source material that exists.
I didn't say a
This
thing.
is how to artfully navigate NDAs, right?
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
But Helen, how about Squid Game the musical?
Right?
I thought about that. Actually, I was watching it, I was like, no.
Think about how comfortable all the costumes would be. They would be like just sweatsuits, just, oh, that would be a dream. That would be just like wearing pajamas on stage. It would be great. It would be great. So Daniel, what are you working on after this? So you're getting your play up, right?
Ralph laughs because I shouldn't be working on anything but our play right now.
Right.
But am I allowed? Originally, Ralph and I were going to work on a different play of mine that has a lot of sex in it, and
That's an understatement.
Truly, and because of the pandemic and the safety of our
because of the
performers,
pandemic.
it just is not a safe time to be asking everyone on stage to be simulating sex. And
It's true.
so-
Monkeypox is out there, people.
Maybe that show will someday see the light of day, and we need
Yeah.
to crawl
But
our
I
way out of
mean,
this
his
pandemic.
play, just to entice everyone, has
still has a lot of
Sharks
sex.
in drag.
Sharks in drag?
Yes.
Oh, that's totally up my alley.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you're acting a lot.
And he's acting a lot. You're acting a lot.
I'm navigating the multi-hyphenate aspect of how to pursue this career in acting and also how to exercise artistic agency and have a voice as a writer and as a creative.
And he got married 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And I'm moving through life chapters, so.
And
you know.
has Billions had any effect on the writing other than like taking up a lot of your time?
I believe that I've had doors open for me because of the visibility on this TV show, and maybe that just can be a source of hope that there isn't a linear path ever in one's career, and that work can beget work, and that that representation matters on all of these different levels, and what we are trying to create and the stories that we are trying to tell have a greater impact than we may realize in our own individual paths.
That's great. Ralph, you want to wrap it up?
Oh, I have nothing to wrap it up with.
No. I
Say
mean,
what
come on,
Mooney's
like,
doing.
Ralph, you have seen change. You have seen more change for Asian Americans than.
I can tell you that right now, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, which led into the Asian violence awareness that was triggered by the murders in Atlanta.
Right.
Asian Americans are in the minds of gatekeepers across the country, meaning theaters are thinking about Asian American plays. This is new.
This is ridiculously new. This is like in the
ridiculously
last
new.
3 months.
We are
Like,
opening
honestly.
doors that we have never opened before. The question here is, are they doing this to check off boxes? And when the audiences don't come, because not all will come, they don't have relationships with Asian American communities, will they blame the Asian American communities and say Asian plays don't sell?
Right. That's
We've seen that before.
Yeah.
So right now, there's a lot of opportunity, but not all theaters pursuing Asian American plays are genuinely engaged with the Asian American communities around them. So that is we're being asked, can you partner with us? I have had more co-production opportunities now with large regional companies around the country that never paid attention to us before.
But they need your endorsement.
Yes, but I tell them what's happening, what have you done
Right.
before you do this play? What have you done?
They've done Yellowface.
Yes, but I mean, they don't have. They
Yeah,
don't,
no, I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
Yeah, but they don't have these things, and so I turn
Right.
it down. Like I can't be your thing, your diversity check.
Yeah.
And I think it's everyone sort of has to be aware that this is a unique opportunity for Asian American artists because of what happened. It did not happen in isolation. People died.
People died.
People died. So know what this moment has created, but also think about how these opportunities present themselves and what you can do to advocate for greater engagement with the community. Because you can't keep doing these plays without ever talking to those Asian American audiences. You've never asked them to come before. You've never invited them to come to the table. And you expect them to do that simply because you're doing Flower Drum Song or whatever.
No, it's true. I mean, like I've had conversations with people who are like, oh, we don't program those pieces because Asians only go to symphonies. And I'm like, I'm Asian, I go to everything. Like, I don't care. But, if you're not invited in, why would you go?
That's right.
There's a thing going on the TikTok now. It's a very hot video. And it's like, if you're not invited, don't go. If you hear about it from a friend, it's not applied to you. And she sets up this paradigm of like, if you're not invited, don't go. You're honestly gonna hurt yourself and your feelings are gonna be upset. And like, Asian Americans have not been invited to theater.
No. I mean,
Which is
case
all-
in point, like San Francisco, biggest Asian American,
Yeah.
the largest, and Seattle. That community does not go to those big regional theaters that run in those cities. They don't. And so when they program Sisters Matsumoto at Seattle Rep, and the audiences don't come, they blame the Asian community for saying, you never bought tickets, why would we do Sisters Matsumoto?
Well, they did in Seattle, one of the most egregious Mikados I've ever seen photos of, and I wrote about it, and I
remember.
pointed out how close the Seattle like Asian American Museum is, and I was like, you are literally, like I looked on a map and I said, you are less than 2 miles, and you didn't go and check any aspect of
No.
authenticity.
No.
Like, you know, there are children in Seattle, there are Asian children, it's possibly the second largest contingent.
Mhm.
And you didn't care about their parents or their kids or what they were seeing or how they were being portrayed. You know, it is, we Asian Americans have been in the United States since at least the late 1600s, and that started with like, I believe, Filipino fishermen. And then the Chinese came in like the 1700s and so forth and so on. We've been here for hundreds of years, and still people come up to me, they come up to, I'm sure all of you, and say like, you know, go back to where you came from. You know, and I'm like, Astoria?
Yeah.
What? You know?
Can I sneak one question in?
Yeah.
We're doing a Karate Kid musical right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
And the conversation that I've gotten from my Asian friends there is, where are gonna be the Asian producers that will be part of this? So to your point, Ralph, you're unique in the sense they keep saying that without Asian producers, you're gonna hire, if you will, white marketing people, and so do we imagine, or do you see a way of triggering that, and also thinking about it as an export, meaning to the global community? Can we create content that then goes that? And we've done it somewhat in the movie business, but can we do that in our theater?
There are certainly Asian American producers in the United States, but they have to be cultivated to invest in Broadway, because a lot of them have never done it. Some have, but there's not enough of them. As far as producers in Asia, they are now generating their own content for export to the world, such as K-pop, such as K-dramas, Taiwanese TV. They're now creating their own content. There used to be a time where they would bring American content in, but now that's reversed. So they
Also,
are
they've been training for years.
for years. Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
They've been bringing American directors, writers, everything over. So it's not like people are coming from Asia and don't know this formula.
Yeah.
They have been seeped in this formula for
Yeah.
years and years and years, and America missed an opportunity to cultivate Asian American voices.
Yeah.
So it's like Asian American voices a lot of times don't trust the paradigm of the white Broadway producer. It's really hard to establish that.
And Disney has been created a school in Hong Kong, training Asian American directors to stage Disney musicals all over Asia, and the theme parks in Tokyo and Hong Kong. So they've been doing this for 30 years, and I just don't know how to attract producers. Something like Karate Kid, I probably should go to these countries and seek partnerships, but it's gonna be tough if it's already done, if it's already ready to go. I don't know.
We have some, but
Yeah,
that's
right.
just the next door to open.
Yeah.
Is, can you be at the table? Not at
Right.
the table that hires the actors and
Yeah.
directors.
I mean, I do know one Broadway producer that is Asian,
Yeah.
that I can give you his
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
But he hasn't been a lead producer, you know, because, you know, he had to get his foot in the door, but he's won awards, like, I've been on the team that's won awards. But still he struggles, right? because nobody has trusted him to really like lead the team, you know?
In fact, we have 6 Korean producers next week we're meeting with. They're here to look for stories to invest in. So you should.
Yeah, I was with the Tokyo Broadcasting System.
Yeah.
Same
But
thing.
these guys are flying in
Absolutely.
to meet with folks.
So,
Something I want to say before we run out of time is that what we can do as a community today is to support the stories that are happening in our city right now. So for Asian American theater, Clarence Koo is going up at primary stages. Chiheb Park will have Peerless at primary stages. Kpop is going to be on Broadway. There are plays that you can, and musicals that you can buy tickets to now that show that there is a demand for these stories to be told, that there's an audience that is excited, invigorated, and desperate to see themselves represented, and we can show up with our dollars, like Ralph said, and that shows the producers that there is continued interest and continued audience fostering that we can do, and that this starts off Broadway like K-pop, and when it reaches the popularity and when it shows how hungry people are, then it can move to Broadway, and we see that with countless off-Broadway to Broadway transfers. So continue to seek out those stories and support them with your dollars, with your voices, with your community and impact that you individually have. And
Yeah, I would say that, and I always say that the way we vote in theater for what we want is we buy a ticket. And we don't just buy one ticket, right? We have to buy several tickets, and we have to go back, and we have to take family members. And it's not cheap, right? But it is an investment. It is an investment for your community. It's an investment for your continued, like, not being trampled by the great PWI establishment that is Broadway. And I wanted to wrap it up and say thank you to my panelists for coming today and speaking on this topic. I'm so thrilled to have them. I'm so thrilled they came out post-pandemic, and this is like their first panel. So I'm just really thrilled they're here. So Helen Park, Daniel K. Isaacs, Ralph Peña. So we will see you all